Hello everyone, welcome to the Patreon vlog for July 19th of 2015. My name is Fear Dragon, and this is a vlog where I just go over, the happenings of what's going on with my Patreon, where the money is going, what's up with me, what's up with the events that I'm doing, etc. So let's get started off with where's the money going? NA Ladder Heroes. Cool, done with that part. Awesome. NA Ladder Heroes. So let's talk a little bit about that. So we've done week number 1 and week number 2 of NA Ladder Heroes, and it's been pretty awesome. I'm actually really happy with how things have been going. Week 1, we had, I believe it was State coming out in first place, Jon Snow coming out in second place. We had a large list of players coming out, between 3rd and 16th place. First place and second place got paid out. I was super happy. I was a little bit worried that it might be like a huge pain to manually be keeping track of everything. It's not too bad. It's like maybe 20-30 minutes of work to update all the point values, pay all the players out, etc. And I try and pay them out immediately. Ideally, in my mind, I want it to be like a payout within an hour of them, the placement for NA Ladder Heroes ending. I want to be like that super prompt and immediate rewarding tournament organizer. So that's what's going on with that. So all the players have been paid out on time and everything. We can happily say that as we move into week number 2. But week number 2, we did have some interesting results. So as I go ahead and bring this over here, as you can see, I'm on the Team Liquid thread. That's where, if you ever want to get any updates on like the point standings, etc., just go to the TL thread. But here are the current standings. So we had actually a bit of a change up this week. It's a BioIce coming out in first place. State coming out in second place. So those are our top 2 finishers. BioIce earning himself, I believe, like $48. State earning himself around $16-ish. And a bit of a change up. I know State kind of messaged me and said, sorry, like I've been busy, traveling and playing tournaments. I'm like, dude, you don't have to apologize. You came out in second place, like while traveling and playing tournaments. That's freaking awesome. Another shout out goes to Pig, who somehow still managed to make it on the leaderboards in 12th place, while also commentating at IEM Shenzhen, which I thought was phenomenal, because it wasn't just him like, okay, I got high enough and now, there's not enough people ladder. Like, he's actually was moving up and down on the rankings. I want to note up on the rankings too, because he was playing, but he was also at IEM. Mine was blown by that, so a big shout out to Pig on that. But you can see No Regret getting 3rd place, Ender getting 4th place, Jon Snow 5th, EJK, Migraine, Drunken Boy, Nero, who's not actually on Team Flipside. That's a bit out of date, is I believe, actually, if I scroll up a little bit, where is it? Crayon saying Nero's in Brawl now, not Flipside. But Game Time, Jim Rising, Pig, Panda Bear Me, Guitar Cheese, Crunch Time, and Warren, who are new additions for this week, joining in a little bit late. But what that leaves us with is the current point standings. We got State in first place, as it would make sense when you get first place first week and second place the second week. You're going to have a lot of points. Jon Snow trailing not too far behind, 30 points for him, tied with Ender at 30 points. Drunken Boy sitting at 4th place, Panda Bear Me 5th place, and tied with No Regret and EJK. BioIce sitting at 8th place, and you can kind of see the way that I'm listing this out is, first, and if there's 2 people tied for second, then I don't list out a third, because that would be a little bit misleading. You could see that it basically goes down to the current cutoff. If we started the monthly qualifications right now, BioIce would be the last player to actually qualify, and Guitar Cheese down wouldn't qualify for the monthly finals. So 1 week left. All the rest of the players got to get their points in while they still can, and going to be very interesting to see how things end up turning out. But that's sort of the point standings right now. Hopefully you guys did find things sort of interesting. One thing that I'm looking to do right now is I want to try and message out the players that get first and second place. I want to see if they'll be willing to give me the top replay of the week or something. I want to create some more content on a weekly format. Just to increase a little bit more of the visibility into NA Ladder Heroes, because otherwise it's only the monthly at the end. I think that's going to be fun, but I'd love to just have, even something simple, like maybe top 2 games of the week from each player, so that means that I have 4 replays a week that I just put up on YouTube, and you guys get to enjoy. Cast with, I don't know, either by myself solo cast or find a co-caster that will be fun to cast it with. Maybe hell, I'll even get the player on to talk about the game or something. Just some fun stuff, extra content around NA Ladder Heroes on a more consistent basis than monthly. But that's sort of been NA Ladder Heroes in a nutshell. It's been going pretty well. I'm pretty happy with how things have been going, especially since we've seen week 2. There's been like pretty big changings in the standings for each week. We've had like a fairly different placements for everyone, and that excites me because that means that it's not super stagnant in terms of who's placing highly on the NA ladder. I was kind of afraid that, once someone gets up high, like they still retain those number of points, so they might just stay up there, but I'm happy to see that things are shifting around. People are getting, higher or lower number of points based on how much effort they're putting into it, so that's really cool to see. But in terms of everything else, for me, I guess what's coming up with me in terms of casting, I was supposed to cast ESL NA Open today. Wasn't quite able to. Today's Sunday because July 19th. Wasn't quite able to. I had some stuff come up at the last second with work. But besides that, no immediate big events going to be planned. I may be doing some casting for ASL in the near future. So look forward for that for Prime League. But besides that, ESL NA Open, whatever qualifiers I manage to be able to commentate if it works out with my work schedule. I have been playing a lot more, and I've sort of been deciding not to broadcast my games. I'm really working on just improving my own gameplay. It's sort of become a personal goal for me that I haven't actually talked about anywhere publicly, but I guess this is the place to talk about it. I want to. My goal is to try and improve and really focus on hitting a higher level of StarCraft, not because I want to become an analytical commentator, but I want to be able to hit GM just so I feel like I'll have a better idea and understanding of some of the more intricate parts of the game. So my goal is GM, and it's a sort of far off reaching goal, but GM by 2016, end of 2016. I'm currently a Diamond League Protoss player. One of those sort of lifetime Diamond League Protoss players. I dropped into Gold League and Platinum League for a little bit. I'm not one to complain, but MMR decay, and then I would drop into Gold League, and then I'd have like an 85 to 95% win rate, but I just wasn't playing enough games to really have it play out. And that's sort of something that I'm a little bit sad about. It's one of those things where if I didn't have a full-time job also, and trying to do all the other stuff that I'm doing in StarCraft, watching, keeping up with the meta, etc., I just felt like my time was better invested in watching and keeping up with StarCraft than playing itself. I would play little bits, but not a huge amount, and that's something that, this is transitioning to the topic of the vlog for the week, is, I guess, my thoughts on commentators and playing. I always feel like there's this big stigma against, commentators don't play the game. And I think that there's obviously a lot of value in actually playing the game. But for me, a lot of the times, the reason why I will prioritize things like not playing, and I'll do things that are unrelated to directly playing the game consistently, is I'm not exactly an analytical commentator. I've never considered myself an analytical commentator, and I feel like most of the time, bar a couple things that I'll say, I usually try and preface everything I say with, don't take anything that I say as complete factual thing. I've never pretended to know the game intricately at some super deep level, alright? I feel like I've done a good job of, putting that out there whenever I kind of give my thoughts on anything that happens in a game. I don't pretend to know what's going on at, again, a super deep level, but the things that I do spend my time doing is I spend more time looking into players, talking with a lot of players. I try to occasionally just talk to players, check in with how they're doing, say hey, how you feeling with this matchup, kind of out of the blue, just to get a feel for, I guess, some of the more outside factors. I do a lot more speech work. I think I haven't been able to do it to the level that I want to, but working on my enunciation, I think that's one thing I really do need to work on more. Working on my play-by-play, working on my hosting skills and my speech patterns. I used to have a lot more ums in my speeches and casting, etc. We're kind of eliminating some of the repetitive words and just putting more thought into my commentary and the things that are outside of the game, because I think that if I get paired with a analytical commentator or someone who knows the game a bit better, that's when I can start feeding off of them and letting them shine as well, because then I cover the areas that they're not covering, and they cover the areas that I'm not covering. It's that nice meshing of play-by-play with analytical. That's what I really have been trying to focus on, and I hope that it's been paying off. I feel like sometimes it's been paying off, but there have definitely been a few times. It's mostly ZVZs and TVTs. I just kind of sitting in the game, I'm like, well, they're making roaches, and one of these guys has more roaches. Oh, but the larva inject just popped off, and now this other person is making more roaches. So they're actually tied up. So there's a couple times that I will admit I'm just sort of like saying things, and I'm trying to figure out what exactly is going on, and that does hurt a little bit, especially on the solo casts. But I found that if I just focus on things that aren't necessarily just directly the deep level analysis of the game, which I think is important, and sometimes, that is what I want to be able to focus on, but I'm not quite able to at the level that I want to. That sort of goes into, again, why I want to become a higher level commentator. I want to do a little bit more studying also of ZVZ, TVT, get some more, I want to say just like coaching, kind of weird coaching where I don't want to be taught how to play Terran or Zerg. I just want to be able to understand some of the more intricate details that maybe I recognize a bit better in the Protoss matchups because I play Protoss. I can say like, hey, I recognize that when a Protoss player is saving up the Chronobus over here, this is more likely to lead into certain clear decision making of, some sort of all-in, or, they're more likely to see like a Twilight Council that's going to go in, the Chronobus is going to go into blink, or, hey, the Zerg player is, sitting on, delaying some of these gas geysers a little bit longer. That means that these sort of things are going to be more available to them. All that, those small subtle cues that I can read into. And I want to learn some more of those in the Terran and Zerg matchups that don't relate to Protoss. But besides that, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I think that there are a lot of important things that viewers sometimes neglect commentators need to do. Even analytical commentators, I think that there's a lot of value in a lot of things that go outside of just playing the game. Watching the game and watching other people's broadcasts. So I get to learn from the broadcasters, but I also get to learn a lot from the metagame and what I'm seeing. It's so important to be able to talk about what is currently common in the metagame. Because if I'm playing at my Diamond League level, look, let's be honest, half the games that I'm encountering, I'm like, cool, playing a PvZ, alright, awesome, like I'm getting Ling Baneling all in. Who does a Ling Baneling all in off of like 2 base or 1 base even sometimes at a high level, right? I'm not going to be getting a feel for what's common at that high level meta nearly as much as watching and actually getting to observe either player streams or tournament streams. That's where I get to see that kind of stuff, and that gives me the knowledge of, hey, this stuff I'm seeing a lot of. So now when I don't see that from a certain player, I know that they're playing against the meta. That gives context of like, hey, they're doing this thing and it looks like this more aggressive build. Hey, you know what? This makes a lot of sense because I've been seeing a lot of Protoss players, go for Nexus first or something, or play a little more greedy. This seems like a build that's made to punish this other thing. And you get a better feel for the meta by doing things that aren't just playing. I'm going to close up my thoughts over there and sort of, I guess, stop the defending of the justification of why a lot of commentators don't necessarily play as much. I know that there are some full-time commentators that don't really play as much. That one, I think, it's a little bit harder to defend. For me, it oftentimes comes down to I have a limited amount of hours that I can really invest into StarCraft because I have a full-time job. And I think that sometimes I do sort of burn myself out on StarCraft a little bit. Just because in the past I would come home, I'd just watch StarCraft player streams, etc. I just get heavily involved. And one thing I've learned is that when I take a bit of a step back and I do things that are not StarCraft, like I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons, I've been playing a MMO called Final Fantasy XIV more, I've just been relaxing and doing non-StarCraft stuff more. And it has really increased my enjoyment of StarCraft. Because if you get too heavily involved in it, sometimes it feels like a chore. And when it feels like a chore, you're not putting your heart and soul into it. That's a really dangerous line to balance. I know I've talked with a lot of other people on... man, I'm getting super off topic. I'm just going all over the place right now. But I guess to close up my thoughts, I've seen a lot of people kind of burn themselves out because they get too gung-ho. Not just about, like, the hashtag passion for StarCraft, but forcing themselves to really try and enjoy it. When you're trying so hard to enjoy StarCraft, you get sort of burnt out. I feel like I've seen more casual people who aren't necessarily doing content creation or anything. I've seen them do this for themselves in StarCraft, and they just sort of lose interest after a while, and it takes them a while to gain that back. It's a really fine line to balance. So I've been sitting in a really good place. I've been super more into it and motivated ever since I sort of took a little bit of a step back from StarCraft and how much time I put into it and how much of it I watch. It does sort of hurt how much of StarCraft I can watch, because then I'm a little bit less informed, but I feel like it balances out just because then I get to play more to my strengths of like just being super excited. I know not everyone enjoys me being super excited about StarCraft, but I enjoy it. And you know what? I'll appeal to the people that I appeal to, and the people that I don't appeal to, hey, you know what? There's a lot of amazing commentators that don't go crazy, crazy caster levels of hype on their commentary. I do it because I earnestly feel that enjoyment. I'm not faking anything that I'm doing, unless I'm being sarcastic, in which case I'm trying to be funny. And maybe I'm not always funny, but at least I tried. But that's a good closing point. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for the Patreon vlog. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my Patreon supporters. We got Kevin Murray, Patrick Quist, Joshua Weston, Galil Prone, Zealous Sam, KJ Freedom, Bodane Arain, and Kale Christensen. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you guys do want to support me on Patreon, it's patreon.com/FearDragon64. Twitter and YouTube, etc. are all something at FearDragon64, whatever the website is. But that is going to be it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and happy StarCrafting.